Welcome to the Soul Archaeology podcast, a space for connection, resonance, witnessing, and learning. Together we'll harvest medicine from the spiral of life, sharing conversations with other embodied humans who have navigated their own initiations and found alignment with their true soul essence. With weekly astrology, energy updates, embodied conversation, and channeled teachings, this is a space for you to land and find resonance with the spiral of your own soul. Hello, and welcome to the Soul Archaeology podcast. I am so happy to be here. I am Ali, the host, and truly grateful for all of you who are tuning in, who are listening, who are present. Thank you for your presence. I've missed podcasting so much, so I'm just so grateful that this is unfolding. It's been a long time coming, so I'm here, you're here, and I'm just grateful for that. Podcasting is truly one of my greatest joys. So I'm just excited to have this space to dive deep with all of you, to share wisdom that I've gained along my own spiral of life, energy reports, astrology insights, embodied conversations with people I admire, with people I know who are embodied, humans, teachers, who've walked their own initiations many times over. And it'll just be great. It'll be really fun to have a weekly drop in with all of you. As an astrologer, intuitive and quantum healer, and somatic practitioner, it's a long title, I am extremely passionate about the spiral of life, about becoming more embodied as I move through my own life and sharing that. My own practices and techniques and tools that I've learned, that I've utilized along my own journey with my clients. And my one-on-one work is just, it brings me so much joy to see the transformation. But I also really love connecting with more of you, with a wider audience. So this podcast is really meant to be that, a way for us to connect, to share, and just create a really beautiful, welcoming space for all of you to land, to perhaps ignite or activate some remembering of your own innate wisdom that's held in your bones, that you've carried with you through many incarnations, many lifetimes, and to perhaps encourage you to come back to yourself a little bit more with each episode. As I mentioned before, I work with beautiful humans within a one-on-one container. And we're able to really dive deep together to access all of their beautiful layers, to excavate, to move through layers of childhood conditioning, ancestral imprints, past life trauma, and access what we need to harvest the medicine that we need in order to bring more embodiment, more alignment into their lives. So this podcast is really just a space to share what I have learned along the journey, to share wisdom from other incredible practitioners and teachers, and to bring that medicine to this space to share with all of you. Soul Archaeology was born from my own spiritual journey, my own remembering of self, my remembering of my true soul purpose here, and the journey that I've navigated to get to this point. And I remember back in 2016, I was listening to a podcast and started feeling the activation within me. I started realizing that my own life was so out of alignment. I was so out of alignment, so out of touch with my core self, my authentic self, my center point. And I knew in that moment that I had to begin the process of coming back to myself. And it really started with excavation. And so that's why I call this podcast Soul Archaeology, because I do believe that we When we come to this life, we forget where we've been. We forget the wisdom that we already have within us. We forget why we're here. We forget what it feels like to be fully anchored in love. And so the journey back to yourself is oftentimes an archaeological process. It's an excavation. It's a digging into where you've been, within this life in particular, in past lives. And so the work that I do with others is excavation work. So within my one-on-one containers, I really work with other humans to harvest the medicine that's already held within them, to activate that and to allow that to be our soul blueprint, allow that to be a roadmap back to you. And so I loved, when I first began this, hearing from others who have also navigated this path. It was so powerful to feel witnessed, even though I wasn't necessarily having the conversation with them. I felt seen, when I listened to, different podcasts or different audiobooks, and I learned about others who had walked, this path of remembering. It activated something within me. It helped me remember who I was and why I was here. And it truly inspired me. It inspired me to walk this path. So soul archaeology in particular, archaeology is the study of past cultures, and soul archaeology is the journey of studying your own past. And that doesn't just mean your past within this life, but many other lives, many other dimensions, your ancestry, things that aren't even held necessarily in your own consciousness, but are held within your body. And so when we start the process of excavation, of uncovering where we've been, what we've experienced, what's held within our DNA, what's held within our bodies, we're able to bring light and love to those spaces, to those experiences, and reconnect with that aspect of us, which was perhaps lost or fragmented off at that space and time. And so soul archaeology is really the excavation of and the remembering of our experiences, but also our power and our wisdom. I'll be doing energy updates, astrology downloads, channeled teachings that come in. Oftentimes things come in during sessions that want to be shared with others. So this space will be a platform essentially to share those teachings that are meant for a wider audience, and to share beautiful embodied conversations with other practitioners, friends, healers, teachers who have also walked this spiral of life, who are dedicated and devoted to their own evolutionary path, who are always searching and working towards embodying and finding alignment with their highest potential. And so I'll be sharing those inspiring conversations on here as well. I'm very excited about that. I would love for this to be a beautiful collective, collaborative space for all of you to share as well. So I'd love to hear from you, to hear what you're navigating, what you're working through, questions you have. I'd love for this to be interactive and a space for you to land, to simply be, to simply absorb, to open and receive whatever wisdom is meant for you. As fellow archaeologists, which I'm sure you are, if you're here, if you're present, you are also interested in the journey of your own soul through this lifetime and many other lifetimes, and interested in becoming more connected to, more intimate with your soul, with your authentic self, with your core, and how you essentially can get closer to that, can find more alignment in your life, to excavate those parts with loving awareness, with intention, and bring them back in to your heart space. I do believe, as humans here on the planet, I'm kind of zooming out a little bit, but just the general, just looking at things through a general lens, I do believe as humans now, we are here to ascend, to bring more light and anchor more light on this planet. The planet is ascending. She is evolving. And we as humans are evolving too. And we're kind of in this remarkable space and time. We are in a quantum leap of evolution. We are really in a golden age, which is just a space within the evolution of our human species where we evolve really rapidly. And that doesn't just mean evolving on the physical plane as far as technology and science, although that is evolving rapidly. I'm sure you can all feel that. But evolving our consciousness. Not only evolving our consciousness, but evolving and raising the vibration of our physical bodies as well, which is something I'll go into in a later episode and just talk about the nervous system and what I think and what I've found working with people that why we're experiencing so much dysregulation currently. But these challenges that we face, these more dense experiences within this lifetime are here to help us evolve. I believe truly as humans, we are here currently to facilitate this evolution, to facilitate this quantum leap in evolution, this golden age, by healing generational trauma, healing our past, healing any ancestral imprints, any generational trauma, but also trauma within this lifetime that is perhaps even from, adulthood and things like that. But we're really here to transmute those densities and to inhabit more light, to bring in more light into our physical forms, so that we can access more love, so that we can, move into a space where we don't feel so much fear, so we don't feel so much grief. And so we can actually live in a space where love is felt, where we can look at our at people who perhaps don't align with our beliefs and still love them. And that's why this time and space feels so intense. I've talked to many of you who are, ask like, why does it feel so challenging right now? Like why have the last few years felt so challenging? And I truly believe we experience this influx of light, essentially, whether it be solar flares or, new consciousness, new awareness coming into our field, and we have to find space for that. And so as the light comes in, and these waves of light really have been further apart, in the earlier parts of our lives. And over the last probably 10 to 12 years, the waves are getting closer together. So when we have a wave of light coming in, or, an astrological aspect that's perhaps more challenging or creates more pressure, it's asking for us to open the spaces within us that hold any density, any challenge, anything that would keep or prevent that light from coming in. And so those spaces are where trauma is held, where a pattern or conditioning is held that keeps us out of our alignment, that keeps us out of our light. And so when we open up those spaces, we excavate those spaces through soul archaeology, we are able to access that, to love it and transmute it, to integrate it. And so we can fill that space with light. And the reason I feel like it's been just, these waves have been closer together recently is to speed up this process, is to really ask for us to show up fully to this journey, this great spiral of life where we meet ourselves over and over again in different forms, where we meet our shadow, where we meet our traumas, where we meet the things that hold fear within us. I know for myself, when I am navigating a challenge, when I'm navigating a descent, which is really just a deepening into my own parts, a deepening into my deeper layers so that I can excavate and harvest whatever medicine is down there meant for me. It's always nice to know that perhaps I'm not alone, because what happens in these descents or in these spaces where we experience these initiations, these spaces where we experience friction or pressure or tension in order to create an evolutionary process, it can feel lonely, and that's intentional. The intention is that we come back to ourselves. The intention is that we forget so we can remember, that the light goes out so that we can find where the light's located and turn it back on. And that process and that journey can feel very lonely because, our psyches create this story or this narrative that we're the only ones that have walked that path. And while that might be true to some degree, there are many people who have felt, similar things in their lives, who have had that rock bottom moment where they've felt like all is lost and they're all alone in the world. But this space is meant to show you that you aren't alone, that there is a light and that you can access that light. And that when on the other side of that descent, there's this incredible coming together, this integration, this embodiment piece that floods your being with joy, with love, with abundance, with light. And so this spiral that we're kind of talking about is where we meet ourselves over and over again. And this space is meant to connect. So to show you that you aren't alone in that journey and that you actually have companions along this journey, other travelers who have also traveled a similar path. And that's why it's soul archaeology. Archaeology is the study of past cultures. And the reason we study past cultures is to understand more about our past so that we can understand our present better. And that's very true of our own journey as well. We study our past so we can understand our present. And the beauty is that the present is where we have the space to change. It's where it's the part that's malleable, that's changeable, where we can really pivot and correct patterns that have held us in past looping and things that perhaps aren't serving any longer. And it doesn't mean that we want to live in the past or we need to dwell on the past, but it really means that if we can understand our past within this life, within past lives, within our ancestry, then we can better understand our present. We can understand why we do what we do, why we're here, and fully embody the present in order to create a future that's completely different, that's so expansive, that's free of the chains or the tethers of the past. And so I'm super excited to just share what I learn, along this journey, what I learn in my client sessions, what channels through me, what others have learned and are wanting to share on this podcast as well. Because connection truly heals. And I believe when we are witnessed along this path, when we're witnessed in our depths, when we're witnessed and we feel seen, we can heal the connective traumas, the relational traumas that are leaving us fragmented, that are leaving us feeling isolated or alone, that leave us feeling broken or wrong, and begin to remember that we are perfect and exactly where we're meant to be. To reorient, to find where we're at along our path, along our journey, and to bring more light to the spaces that want to be seen and witnessed within us in order to move forward. Each episode will be a bit different. I like to keep things spacious so that whatever needs to come through, whatever spirit would like to share can come through when it needs to, so it can land and resonate with all of you. Thank you for being here for my first episode. This is short, but in the next episode, I will be sharing my journey, where I came from, how I got here, how I got into this work, the wild twists and turns along that path, and to just create a little bit of a foundation for this podcast, for, the things that I speak about and talk about, so you can understand a little bit better where I'm coming from. And last but not least, I wanted to announce that we are hosting a giveaway to celebrate the launch of the Soul Archaeology podcast. I am just over the moon excited to have you here, and I just want to show gratitude to all of you and thank you for your support. So I'll be giving away a one-on-one session with me, either the Alchemize session, which is a quantum healing session, or an astrology session. And all you have to do to be entered to win is subscribe to the podcast, rate and review on iTunes or Spotify, and then share on social media and tag me. Thank you so much for being here, and for listening to the first episode. This is going to be such a beautiful journey together. Thank you for choosing to be here, and I will see you in the next episode.